to have a strong typing, to have all the tools you need, all the control when you write the code, and produce a very clean JavaScript, a very standard JavaScript. So it's very useful, and you can use TypeScript in any platform.
Awesome, great. Let's see some examples. We've been talking a lot.
Yes.
So I guess it's time to check out a couple of examples.
Yeah.
I'm gonna here, start some of the Cordova applications that are on the Windows Phone Store. So let me start this guy here and project my screen. So you have here a Windows Phone device.
Yep.
And the first app I want to show real quick is Social. So I don't remember how we say that. It's a Microsoft app, very interesting app that looks into a way to do social media that is different. And here, what you see is just a Cordova application. You will have the exact same experience on iOS and Android for that application. It integrates media, it integrates a lot of features. That's a Cordova application that gets data from a cloud service. And you can see that you have animations, you have an experience that is very much native-like. It's something that if you didn't know it was a Cordova application, well, you would not guess it. It's like pretty integrated, pretty normal experience. The second one I have, it's dear to my heart. It's an app that we actually worked with some community out there in order to extend it. It was an iOS and Android only app, and we met the guys at a PhoneGap Day event, and talking to them, they were telling us, no, we're not targeting Windows Phone because it doesn't support Cordova. And we're just like, no, that's not true, actually. MS OpenTech is contributing, and look at that. And the guys didn't even look into Windows Phone as a solution. And it took them something like a couple of weeks to get the app published on the store with all the features that were available. So this one is about sharing your, it's a kind of a beer drinking social app. I've not been really good. You see, no distinct beers, badges, whatnot. I have two usernames, one for the demos, with nothing in there, and one was my real life. Anyways, so that's the second app. Once again, very much integrated into the overall experience of Windows Phone. You have a tile that is live and things like that. But the idea is to show that here, an app that was for iOS and Android, developed using Cordova, has been ported in a couple of weeks only onto Windows Phone. The last I want to show, before we switch to maybe more sexy demos of yours, is Browser Quest. It's for those of you who have some, nostalgia of very old pixelated games.
Oh, I love it.
This one is has been developed. It basically was ported to the web from some console, and then from the web ported to PhoneGap app.
Okay.
And it was super easy to do. And I'm dying.
Yeah, careful.
But you get the idea here of how easy it is to actually go from web to an application using Apache Cordova. And I think you have a couple more, I would say, advanced demos. These were pretty basic type of apps. So I guess you have some of the demos you've been building available.
Yeah, on my screen you can see my phone right now. And the first demo I want to show you today, it's this little game. In fact, it's a Coco Studio, as you can see. It's a Coco Studio game, and Coco Studio engine provide two engines. One is C++ and cross-platform engine C++, and one is about HTML. And of course, when I saw that, I think, oh, can I build a Cordova application with that? Of course, I can. So it's a teeny one, funny. Sometimes it's okay. I did. Okay. Oh, with sound and everything in it. So it's pretty cool to see that Coco Studio can be used in a Cordova context, and it's important to see and to know that this night in China there is a very important conference about Coco Studios, announcing the V3 and the support for this kind of thing.
Awesome. So web technology using physics engine and so on, encapsulated into Cordova applications.
You just say physics.
Yes.
Let's look at the physics here. In fact, this application is built on Babylon.js, and we'll see Babylon.js later in a day. And that you are seeing right now, it's just WebGL on a Windows Phone 8.1. Because the last version of Cordova, 3.6 from Microsoft, Fusion merge with the 4.0 you mentioned, have the support for WebGL, so you can have some cool application and with the 3D and this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Of course.
That makes me think, actually, sorry to interrupt you. So
Yeah.
I just saw on that app that you were touching and you had this kind of like virtual joystick appearing.
Yes.
There's one thing we didn't mention, which was in the way you interact with a mobile app today. In the web, it's mouse and keyboard, but on devices, it's touch that enters into the game.
It's touch and sensor. You will see a lot of game or a lot of application
was
just
motion.
moving the phone. And of course,
That's one of the other problems you need to look into, because
Yes.
today all the platforms do not treat touch and pointers the same way. So we have some interesting discussions, but that's for another MVA, I guess,
Yeah.
about thinking how people will interact with your application and adding a layer in between to have a standard way to accept the touch and the pens and the mouse events into your web application in that case.
Exact. We just saw on a funny application, a graphical application, and of course, if we have a new kind of camera, and Babylon provide me a new kind of camera, you can have a scenario with this kind of stuff, the VR cardboard from Dodo Case. So let me start my application. In fact, it's exactly the same application except that I stopped the engine, physics engine, and I can look inside.
Nice.
Yes. Wow.
But people don't see it, but it's a
very
3D
simple.
rendering through the cardboard thingy, right?
Yeah. very
Come back,
simple.
Eric.
Yes. I am. So I just want to share with you this kind of possibility. It's very cheap and very useful. You can have a very nice experience with that.
And you would deliver the same experience using an Android phone or an iOS device.
Exact.
They are WebGL compliant,
Exact.
and so you can deliver that same experience and have to fit in the cardboard VR thingy, right?
So the last application I want to share with you today, it's a bit tricky for a French guy. You will understand immediately why. Okay, I will start here Cortana. You know Cortana, it's a digital assistant for Microsoft Windows Phone. And I will ask Cortana something about Phone Gap Day. Why? Because during the Phone Gap Day last week, we produce a new plugin for Cordova, a plugin Cortana. And with this plugin, developer can code application, and Cortana can call the application, start the application, and go in the application in particular points to respond to the question.
So basically, you can have Cortana start an application with parameters that are the result of a search, right?
Yeah.
That it does. That's great.
Exactly.
So let's see it.
Okay, let's jump on the swimming pool.
No pressure.
No pressure. Phone Gap Day, show me the Microsoft. Oh no.
Ah.
Phone Gap Day, what is the next session?
Showing next section.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, so as you can see here, I asked Cortana something about phone gaps, and Cortana start the application I created with Cordova, show me the agenda of the day, 24th October, it's past event, but the principle is here. Of course, you created a syntax, a dictionary of words, and you can ask Cortana for the next session, you can ask Cortana for the session from Brian Leroux, you can ask a lot of questions. You define in the dictionary in the XML form. You have to start once the application to register that in your phone, and after that, it's okay. Cortana know the application and know how she can use the application.
Awesome. That's great. Eric, we have a few minutes left.
Yep.
How about we do a command line demo of Apache Cordova?
Yeah.
Like real quick.
Good point.
Like the Cortana demo worked, so I guess you're good now.
Yes. Yes.
So here, while you get that started, in a nutshell, the way developers like to do Cordova development today is using command line tools.
Exact.
I'm sure after today and after the Phone Gap Day presentation, they will love to use Visual Studio as well, because it offers a lot of options.
Yes.
But the way they do development today is command line, and very important to MS Open Tech is to make sure that we deliver to developers the experience they need.
Exactly.
So what you're going to show right now is the way you can target Windows devices using command line tools for Cordova.
Exact. So the first thing is to call Cordova to create an application, for example, MVA test. So let's Cordova create that. There we go. Change the directory to MVA something. Okay. And here we have something like some directory, like a web directory containing the HTML file for your application. Here, directory for the plugin you want to have, if you want to use, we said, hardware or something like that. Mm-hmm. And here, the platform. Of course, you can have multiple platforms. That's the main subject of today, like iOS, Android, or Windows. So let's add a new platform here. So Cordova, platform. Oops. Remove my box slope. And I want to add, of course, platform Windows.
Yeah. So you would do the same thing for Android, right? As in, I
think it's platforms.
Add, yeah. No. Cordova platform,
yes.
add,
oops.
Windows. There you go.
Okay, it is.
So what it's adding right now is a Visual Studio solution, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the error was nice because you see here what the different platforms are present in my machine.
Okay,
Cordova,
awesome.
And which platform I can select. In this case, I just add a new platform for Windows, and now I can ask Cordova to build the application itself. Cordova build Windows.
Okay. So it's actually building the binary based on the Visual Studio solution. So it's basically scripted the thing. And it would be the same for Android, right?
Exact.
Great. And we'll see.
The same for each platform you see here.
Yeah. So there's one specific thing, though, which is the way it's going to be done for iOS from a Windows machine, and we'll see that later today. It's very interesting how you can use Visual Studio and the tools that are part of the multi-device hybrid extension for Visual Studio to not only target Android and Windows, which are supported locally with local SDKs, but also iOS, which happens to not be something you can develop on Windows. But we have a solution that's great. So you built the application for Windows. And now what you can do is just run the app. Great.
I can just run on Windows device, on Windows machine, or on Windows device. Let's try that.
And so the web developer would actually work in that .dub folder that you demonstrated, you showed in the first in the first folder, and would just edit his HTML5, JavaScript, CSS code in his favorite code editor. Yeah, device is ready.
Et voilà.
Awesome.
The application is built, running well on Windows. Okay, this application is just a hello world, and we can do exactly the same on the phone, but I see the time is flying. And
that's good. Awesome. So I think we'll stay there, and we'll have more Cordova demos coming. We definitely invite you to stay around. The next session is about Windows app template, and we will talk about how you can bring that web experience, website, and make it available through the Windows Store in that case for phone and Windows PCs using the what.
Exactly.
Thanks very much.
See you later.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. Well, welcome, David.
Thank you.
And this module right now, in the context of developing cross-platform application with web technologies, will cover the web application template, commonly called what?
What? Absolutely.
Who are you, David?
Who I am? I'm David Ketu. I'm working for Microsoft, and I'm dedicated to everything related to open web standards and AI. I'm in a special team called DX for developer experience, and we are focusing mainly on discussion with web developers.
Great. I like your T-shirt.
Thank you. I have standards.
You have standards, definitely. The module today actually will cover a lot of things.
Yep.
So the first one is what?
That's a good question.
That's a good question, right? We'll explain how you can download what and how you can install that. We'll look into the various configuration files, the package manifest for the application, the app config file for what. We'll mention Apache Cordova, as in, how does it integrate into the story here. We'll look at how you can style your what application. What are the native functionality of the OS you can access like camera and things like that. From what?
And my favorite feature.
And your favorite feature is the offline mode.
Absolutely.
Right. So being offline actually is something critical for an application, and we'll see how you can do that with what. And last but not least, we'll have a link to the various resources that will be useful for you as a developer to develop with what.
Yep. So what is what?
So what is what?
Yeah.
Good question. That's a framework that allows you to use a website as the foundation for your Windows Store app. So the idea here is that even though we can do JavaScript HTML5 development for Windows Store applications natively, right, without needing any sort of wrapper or web view control, it's very interesting to see how we can help businesses bring their existing website onto our platforms rapidly. Right, that could be step one of a new reach to our platforms.
Yeah, that's the philosophy. It's a step one, and if you want to go deeper into some specific feature of the platform, then you will be able to do that. Yep. And I have to mention that right now we have the support for Windows Phone Store and Windows 8 Store, but in the near future we will also introduce the support for iOS and Android. Interesting. That's really cross-platform.
That's really cross-platform. Really interesting.
Yeah.
Is it using Cordova?
Sometime it will be. We have to think about specific features. Right now we have a good support on Android without Cordova, and we are thinking about what we can do on iOS.
So the philosophy is bringing your website, adding some metadata around it, right? That's this config.json file we're going to talk about.
Absolutely.
And get an app on the store. How about I show you how that looks like? Let me show you on my screen here on my little device. I've got an application, the Home Depot one.
And I can see the tile.
You can see a tile first. Yes.
It's an app.
It's an app. It's integrated. I got it from the store, right? And from here, I can see something that looks very much like an app. It has a menu. I'm able to scroll through the content. I have a bar here.
The app bar is integrated.
Right? And not to spoil what we're going to show, but here I have an example of the use of a native resource. In that case, it's the camera to scan a barcode, and you can see the studio.
Hey guys!
They're hiding behind the screens down there. Yes. These are the guys actually delivering the MVAs for you guys. So I'm not
here, what you just shown us is a scanner, by the way. You can scan an item dynamically. It will be integrated into the app itself.
Yeah,
so it's really an app.
Yeah, and actually, when you're going to scan it, it's going to do a search into your app, right? So that's even more interesting. We'll talk about that in a minute. Let's jump into it. Downloading and installing.
First step.
First step. Where to go? You need Windows 8.1.
Okay.
Right. That's it. A requirement that actually is pretty fine today, I would say. Visual Studio 2013, because the templates will run on VS 2013. VS Express is good enough. So Express,
it's free.
It's free. It's the free version. You need to understand what JSON format is, right? But honestly, I don't know JSON a lot, and
it's pretty natural.
Yeah. It's pretty human readable type of syntax, so that's pretty cool.
Sure thing.
Another thing important is having a responsive website, right? Well, it's not mandatory, but it's highly recommended. Yeah,
if you want to provide a good user experience, you have to have a good site that can be stretched into different ratio, meaning on the phone or on a tablet, that's different. So your site should be able to adapt to these different resolutions.
Think about what the market is. We're talking Windows Store, and Windows Store is about tablets, like all the way from small, tiny, 8 inches, all the way to gigantic screens like this guy here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So think about that in the way you develop your application. You can find what on the what.codeplex.com website. So that's where both the source and the actual VSIX file are for you to install the extension, the extension for Visual Studio. You can also use Git to clone the code. I think it's interesting if you find things in the code that you would like to change.
Oh, you want to contribute? If you want to contribute, feel free. It's really an open source project. It's open to everyone.
Awesome. And it's just about double clicking on the VSIX file, right?
Yeah.
Let's not do that now. Not mess up with the demo machine, right? And then once you have the VSIX installed, it's start Visual Studio, file, new project.
I can show you that, guys.
And you can show us that.
So switching to my computer, here I have Visual Studio, so 2013. I will go to new project, as you can see here. And if I select JavaScript, because it's about JavaScript here, I have a new template, web application template for universal app. Pretty straightforward. I just have to create this project, and in a couple of seconds, I will be able to create directly an application for a specific website.
So do you have to download the website?
I don't have to download the website. That's pretty interesting with this kind of stuff. No, I don't want to give you my connection. Sorry about it. So by default, we integrated this specific page when you open the project itself. So you have some pointer to the documentation and things about the future support of W3C Web Application Manifest. We will talk about that later. Yeah. But by the way, here, I just have a simple project. Here we have some extension that we will talk about after. They are more about supporting specific features like offline or integration with the platform. We will talk about that later. But basically here what we have an application for Windows 8.1. It's a universal application. So I also have Windows Phone and we have a share environment. That's pretty much it. If I want to just specify that I want to start with this specific project,
which is the Windows Store version.
Yes, it will be the Windows Store version. Here, I have all the configuration shared between both applications, Windows Phone and Windows 8. So I just have to launch my project here. It will download for you specific feature required, like, for instance, here, JSON. The application will be compiled. And look, it's a pure application. I have here my top app bar. Mm-hmm. It's an application with interesting features. And what you are seeing here is the home page of Web Application Template itself. Oh, I can change that. I just have, and you mentioned that before, to change this specific JSON file. It's a file where you can, and I will zoom for you guys, where you can specify, okay, please embed this specific URL. Here, obviously, I use what? What about creating an application for Bing?
Yeah, let's do that.
That's it. You just have to change that. And basically, my new application will be Bing.
Too easy.
Yeah, that's too easy, yeah, I agree with you. And it's an app. As you can see, I can manipulate the application like any other one. Obviously, I can put it here, play with this. Yeah, snapping, everything is supported. I can also show the sound bar here. We already have some specific settings that we can augment and add new features in it. Everything will be done just by declaring what you want into this specific config JSON file.
Awesome. Before you jump into the package manifest explanation,
yep.
I have one question. So is Visual Studio allowing you to do some level of debugging, DOM inspection, and so on from here?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. You can see this specific application as a regular application. That's a true application.
Even though the content is a website?
Yes, because we are based on a technology called the WebView. The WebView with Visual Studio 2013 can be debugged, and I can drill down the WebView itself to open the website itself, gathering some information about the DOM or the JavaScript or whatever, defining some breakpoints into the code itself. It's like a regular application.
Got it.
But you control the content on the website.
Awesome. So if your site is not working like expected on the app, then you're good to go with Visual Studio to debug it.
Yes, and we also have some great options that we will see quickly.
Yep. Okay.
So,
good.
Basically, everything is based on this manifest, on this JSON file, sorry. First of all, if you want to define the application, some regular features are not into the config.json file itself. They are more related to the application. And when you are dealing with Windows 8 and Windows Phone, there are what we call the manifest. I can show you that quickly. Mm-hmm. Here, for instance, on Windows 8, I have the package manifest. Okay. It's some kind of XML file that with a visual editor here, where you can define the name of your application, the name that will be displayed on the store itself. Okay. The only thing that you have to keep is the start page itself. Please don't change the start page here, because everything is based on that. The application should launch this specific wrapper where the magic is done. Okay. Okay. So going back to the slide, don't change the start page. Everything else can be defined. So you can obviously play with the name of the application. Okay. You can also play with different assets, like you want to control the tiles, the colors, the background, the logo. Everything can be configured, guys. You can treat your own application. The content of the application will be gathered for you from the web, obviously, but everything else, all the design and the visual information, can be changed. Okay. You can also change the splash screen, as I can see here, and you can also add specific capabilities. At least, obviously, your application will download data from the web, so you need internet as a capabilities.
Okay.
But if you want to play, for instance, with geolocation, then you just have to check, okay, I will also play with geolocation. Click the location checkbox. Same
Nice.
story
Yep.
with the microphone, the camera, whatever. Okay? You can also define the packaging. So the packaging is the information that will be sent to the store itself. Here I want to give this specific name, this specific version. And I can also say who is the publisher. We can see here that Jeff Berthoff is the name of the publisher because Jeff is the lead developer for this, for what? For web application template. That's why his name is here. The config file itself, I just shown you, is just in the config/config.json folder.
Okay.
Extremely simple. It's a purely, let me go back here. It's purely JSON, so a key and a value.
Okay.
That's it, nothing more. We added something really interesting, which is a schema. What's a schema? If I try to, let me open it again.
Is your keyboard working?
Sounds like the keyboard was not working. My keyboard is disconnected. That's interesting. It's funny stuff.
Did it run out of battery?
Perhaps. I may ask my friend from the studio. By the way, what I want to show you is that here, as you can see, my schema is defined. So if I want to type here an experiment for you guys, I will use the virtual keyboard.
Nice.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, good.
The show must go on. So if I...
That's worse than that.
For instance, as you can see, if I just type
Yes.
something, the schema will help me with some kind of IntelliSense. For instance, you want to add geolocation? Not a problem. Just double click on that. Geolocation. Okay, someone is changing my keyboard. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, my keyboard isn't working. It's not really working well. I don't have all the features of my keyboard. That's really interesting. Okay, let me continue. As you can see, I just type the comma.
Okay.
And automatically, it said to me, okay, yeah, you perhaps want enabled because enabled is a feature supported by the geolocation. Yes, I want enabled and I want to set it to true.
Okay.
That's it. With just this specific line of code, I enabled into my application the support of geolocation. So if my website wants geolocation,
Okay.
it will work like this. Nothing more.
Awesome.
Okay, going back to my
So
slide.
that's thanks to the schema that you get the IntelliSense, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
The
good.
goal of the schema, the very first line we have here in the slide is just giving you some help while typing.
Got it.
You will be helped by Visual Studio. Okay.
Makes sense.
So by default, the minimal config file is this one. Just a schema for you guys to have some help. The name of your application, obviously, and where the data are. Okay, that's it. Obviously, you can add more interesting options. Everything else is optional.
Okay.
Okay, that's pretty interesting because you can just play with that, but obviously you will certainly want to configure more your application. So our section is working. You always have what underscore the section name, okay? And then you can have subsection, you can have options available directly into this JSON format.
Awesome.
You don't have to code. It's a declarative way of creating an application, and I appreciate that a lot.
You just made like half of the web developers run away here.
Yeah,
Saying
no.
you don't have to code.
Stay,
Yes,
guys.
stay,
You
guys.
can obviously code. It's a different.
Actually, we
topic.
give you the option to not have to focus
Yeah.
into the wrapper. It's easy to configure, make the web experience, and the wrapper will take care of the rest.
But yeah, as you mentioned, you have to code your website. That's the point.
Yes.
Obviously, there is documentation for the config file. Everything is available online just there. Feel free to read it and use it. And Olivier, we perhaps should talk about navigation.
Definitely. Navigation through the pages, because obviously
Yes.
an application is about showing various type of data and in various ways and so on. So there are many ways that you can actually implement a navigation and how you can configure that. Well, first off, you can definitely just add links into your web app. So it's a web view control. So
It's about web.
It's about web. So you click on a link, it's going to go to that page. Even if it's an external link, right?
Yep.
So that means you're in your own app showing whatever Home Depot, and you want to go into Bing. Boom, Bing search is going to bring up Bing to Bing web page.
It's interesting.
Right. So why not? The thing is, then you can also think about adding things that are more native looking, right? More that integrate into the overall experience. You would expect, for example, to have a way to go back and forth from pages hitting the back button
Yes.
on the screen, right? So you have an overlay.
Or something in the app bar.
Or something in the app bar or nav bar.
Yep.
Nav bar on top, app bar on the bottom. And then you have that idea of a nested navigation.
Yes.
Which is also very interesting. Let's not dive into that right now, but the idea is really that you can take care of the navigation yourself. You can also configure what we call the automatic page redirects, like web content, right? So that's web. As a web developer, you know exactly what that means. We touch a little on that, the styling of the application, right? So navigating through the pages is important. Now the look and feel of the page is important also.
Yes, and you may want perhaps to change something on your website for your specific app. You may don't want to have exactly the same look and feel, depending on where you are.